on these pages, we're putting together several of the transformations that we've looked at, each transformation separately. So we want to first always identify the parent. The parent for this one, I can see an absolute value there, so I know it must be the absolute value of x. And the transformations that are being done, first I'm looking for the h, or the horizontal. So I'm looking inside the absolute value, and I see I do a +1, and I have to remember for the x's, it always goes the opposite of the direction you think. And the +1 tells me I think I should go right 1, but it really is the opposite. So it'll be left 1. And that's the x's are always opposite what you think. Left 1, and to get left 1, I have to, or in your view, left 1, I have to subtract 1 from the x's. And I'm just putting some short notation there to remind myself, subtract 1 from the x's. And then stretch or compress, that would be a number multiplied by the x or a number multiplied by the absolute value. And I don't see either one. So I'm just going to put a dash here saying there's nothing to do. A reflection, that would be a flip, and it'll be a negative sign either on the x or on the parent function itself. And so here I don't see a negative on the x, but I do see one on the parent function. So that's going, it's outside the function, not inside with the x. So I'm flipping the y's over the x-axis. So I'm going to put that part in parentheses because it's not as important as me knowing I have to flip the y's. Okay, and then the V is for vertical, so it's moving up or down, and those are happening to the y's, and it's being added or subtracted outside the parent function part. And so I don't see anything outside the parent function part, because it would be over here, it would be like +5 or something along those lines, but I don't have anything like that, so I'll just put a dash here to indicate I don't have a vertical shift. Now, I need to see these HSRV charts, this little part filled in, and I need to see an XY table for each transformation that you have to do. And I'll show you exactly what I want to see, but just do know I'm looking for all this on your papers, so don't give me part of them, give me all of them. So first thing I want is for you to look at the parent function. We're just going to make a quick XY table, and we'll do -1, 0, 1, and I know for absolute value that it's going to come to 1, 0, 1. And then I want to look at the first transformation. That is going to be my h's all the time if I have an h. If not, I skip to the next letter until I find one. But I do have an h, a horizontal, and it's x + 1, absolute value of that. And that's what I'm going to do my XY table for now. And to do it, I already wrote down my instructions. I just come over here to the right, and it says subtract 1 from the x's. So what I'm going to do is here, instead of doing x, I'm going to do x - 1. So from these original x's here, putting them here, but taking off 1 as I go. So -1 - 1 is going to give me -2. 0 - 1 is going to give me -1. And then 1 - 1 is going to give me 0. So that has the effect of taking a graph and moving it to the left 1 unit. It changes only the x part, so I can change only the x part and get that same effect. My y parts are going to remain unchanged, so I just write them down, 0, 1, 0, 1, and then I'm ready for my next transformation. I don't have a stretch or compress, but I do have an R for a flip, so I'm going to do that next. That's my second transformation, so it'll be negative, and then absolute value x + 1. And then that means I already wrote my instructions up here, flip my y's. So I leave the x's alone and I flip all the y's. So I can write it on my table that way if I want, if that'll help me. The x's are going to remain unchanged on this table, so it'll be -2, -1, 0, and then my y's I'm going to flip. So flip the signs on them. I guess that's going to make that clear. And it will be, it was a 1, now it's going to be -1. It was a 0, it'll stay a 0. And then the second one, or the third one, will be a -1 because it was a 1. Now, since that's my last transformation, I can use this XY table here, this last one that I created, and it represents the entire function that I was working on. That is my entire f of x from the start, and so that is the XY table that I will use to graph. Now I do have, in between, I'm writing how much of the function I'm representing in the table below, and I would like you to do that too, so that at any point you can say, well, this is the table for absolute value of x. Then I moved to the left one, and this was the new table, and then I flipped my y's, so this was the final table here. And then when I go to graph, I'm looking at -2, -1, so that'll be to there, -1, 0, and then 1, or 0, -1, there we go. 0, -1. And I can see my V shape, but it's upside down, so it's going to go more like this. And I expect that when I flip something over the y-axis, because if it's like this and then I flip it, it's going to become like that. I also had a transformation. I can see it went left 1 from the origin, so that also appears to be correct. Try to get your lines as straight as you can, even though Mrs. Brown can't on her little device here. But that is my graph for the function f of x equals negative absolute value of x plus 1.